Hi there, welcome back and taking the rough with the smooth. A while back I did a top 10 ZX Spectrum arcade conversions. This time I'm going to look at a few arcade conversions that are not so great. Now it's not necessarily that the games are bad themselves, some of them are just a bit dull or don't live up to expectations, but others have clearly been shut out of the arse end of the spectrum, and we'll take a look at all of them together. Now, these are just my personal choices, and some people may disagree, I understand and appreciate that, but we know that the Spectrum had some amazing arcade conversions over the years. A real testament to some people's programming skills and abilities. Some of my favourite games, Chase HQ for example, Rainbow Islands, which I've only just started playing recently. I never played it back in the day. And Motos, but if I was to go through every single fantastic arcade conversion, we'd be here forever. So we're looking at the bad ones, and we start with Kung Fu Master. Now, what a pile of crap this one is. I bought this back in the day, and I don't know why to this day. I played it 2 or 3 times on the day that I bought it, and never again since, apart from when I did my review video of it last year. So that was like 30 years in between plays. It's just hopelessly abysmal. The arcade game was okay. The Commodore 64 version was okay. The Spectrum version is just a travesty. It's a Colour Clash Central. Ow, I just stabbed myself with a pencil in the leg. It's just woeful and quite amusing and entertaining just to see how bad it is. And it is very, very bad. But there are games that are worse, and some of them are in this list. So we move on from Kung Fu Master, thank God, and we go to Stun Runner. Now this is one of those ones that you know, if a game should have been left alone and not even attempted to be converted, you know, this is a prime example of that. It's just a hideous game. This bit here is just makes your eyeballs bleed. It's just not very good at all. Nothing about Stun Runner, apart from, I suppose, the music on the title screen is worth anything. It's just an abysmal game. I'm sorry, but it is. Needless to say, there's probably 1 or 2 people out there that may have enjoyed the game. I'm just not one of them. For me, it's got no redeeming features. And like I say, it's one of those games that they should have just looked at it and gone, we're never going to get that on the Specky. And they should have left it well alone. But they didn't. So, hey-ho, it makes the list. And we move on. Now, Jailbreak from Konami. This game is an infuriating pile. It's not particularly badly presented, but it's got some very, very poor collision detection. It's got very, very annoying sort of one-hit kills, and it just is an infuriating game to play. I didn't know this back in the day. I do remember reading reviews of it and it not reviewing fantastically well. And having played it just over the last couple of days, there's not an awful lot about Jailbreak. In fact, there's nothing about Jailbreak that's going to make me come back to it. It's just not a great game, but hey ho, there we go. So we move on imminently. Now the next one is interesting because it was one of my favourite arcade games to play. Hard Driving. Now, although it was one of my favourite arcade games on the Spectrum, I find it literally unplayable. The controls are so twitchy. And here's the thing, as a technical achievement for what can be pulled off on the Specky, it's actually quite sort of amazing really. But the overreactive controls just make it verge on the point of unplayable for me. Despite trying many times, even back in the day, I just can never get anywhere with the ZX Spectrum version of it, which is a real shame because, like I say, I did love the arcade game, and I really wanted this to be a good game. But like I say, as a technical achievement, it ticks all the boxes. But no, it's unfortunately it's borderline unplayable because of those twitchy controls, which hopefully you can see. So sadly, Hard Driving ends, and we go on to perhaps the worst of the bunch, which is the ZX Spectrum version of Pit Fighter. Now, this game is just, again, one of those ones that someone should have looked at it and gone, why on earth are we even attempting this? Why are we trying to put our names to this? The only redeeming feature of this game, again, is the soundtrack, which is actually really, really good. But the game is unplayable. You know, the graphics are awful. The animation's awful. God knows what the likes of Conor McGregor would say if they ever saw this. Probably something very rude and sweary. Yeah, it's woeful. Absolutely abysmal game. I can't really say much more than that because you can see what's going on in the video. It's just embarrassing, you know, to say that this is on my favourite machine. But it is. Can't change history, etc. Right, next we have the Spectrum port of Nemesis. Now, I don't think this is a horrifyingly bad game. It's just a bit slow and it's a bit boring. I remember there being all sorts of uproar about the Spectrum version. I think it was either Sinclair user or your Sinclair, one of the two, that published screenshots of the game that bore no resemblance to actually what the game looked like when it was finally released, and they gave it sort of a massive score. Now, like I said, I don't actually think it's a bad game, but it is very, very slow. And there are better games of the ilk out there. Design Apps, R-Type, and others. Now, I've said there's loads of games of the ilk out there. I can't bloody remember any more than those two. I should have made a list, but I didn't. Hey ho, that's me for you. Right, anyway, we leave Nemesis alone, and we move on to a game that's a royal pain in the arse, which is the Spectrum version of Pacland, which came to us from Grand Slam. Now, I've tried to like this game. I didn't know it in the arcades. Again, it's got decent music going on, but and the animation's quite good, but it's just so infuriating to play. The collision detection is, I think, awful on this game, and there's an awful lot of unfairness in the gameplay. You know, it just is not enjoyable. Any sort of fun in the game is ruined by those issues, which is a shame because, like I said, when you look at it, it's actually quite a nice representation of the arcade game. Again, it's an arcade game that I don't know, but there we go. So we end Pacland. And we come to the Spectrum conversion of ZXon, which was released by US Gold in 1984. So obviously this is one of the very earliest arcade conversions. Now, it's just, again, it's a very slow, and the perspective, the forced sort of 3D, makes it very, very tricky to gauge where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, etc. And like I said, the game runs really slow. Now, it was made by Platinum Productions, who went on to do one of the best ZX Spectrum arcade conversions, Tapper, and they also went on to do games such as Raid Over Moscow and Rambo, etc. So they obviously learnt their lessons and put their experience to good use. Now, they're obviously hamstrung by the technical specs of the arcade game, as all the developers of these things are. But to me, ZXon, you know, it's not a bad game as such. It's just so slow, and that renders it sort of nearly unplayable, which is a shame because obviously, like I said, Platinum went on to do bigger and better things, and well done to them for it. So we go on, and we are now at Chase HQ 2. Now, this is such a disappointing game because Chase HQ, the first game, is one of my favourite Spectrum games of the lot, you know, period. I had so much fun with it back in the day, and still play it quite a bit now. So my expectations for Chase HQ 2 were really quite high. Now, again, it's not a bad game. It's just not as good as the first one. There's not as much of a sense of fun in Chase HQ 2 as there is in its predecessor. It's just a bit dull and, dare I say it, boring. The chase down sequences aren't as much fun, the graphics aren't as good, and the soundtracks and music's not as good, but you know, hey ho, there we go. Right, so we move on to the final game in the list, which is the Spectrum version of Double Dragon. Now, I was torn between putting either this or Double Dragon 2, its sequel, into the list. But I've gone for the first one, and you know, Double Dragon was one of the most successful arcade games back in the day, and it was, you know, sort of like only a matter of time before a Spectrum version came along. And again, there's nothing massively wrong with it. It just, when you put it up against the likes of Target, Renegade, etc., it fares quite badly. The controls are a bit difficult to master. The graphics are a bit difficult to sort of make out and see, etc. I really don't like the version of the Spectrum version of Double Dragon, but you know, I know that some people out there do. But you know, it's personal, individual choices and all that at the end of the day, isn't it? Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks ever so much for watching it. There's going to be more to come. I've got plenty of spare time on my hands at the moment for the next few months. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe to the channel, please do, and interact. It will be great to see you. Thanks very much, and goodbye.